Like most of us, you are probably watering your houseplants with tap water, but this is likely causing long-term problems for your plant. Up until recently, I've been watering my houseplants with tap water, and with the help of you guys, I've since realised this is causing some of the issues I've been experiencing for years with a few of my more sensitive houseplants. I don't know about you, but I just can't seem to find the solution to my Caliphaeas behaving badly. Every Caliphaea I have owned has developed the infamous brown tips on the leaves that we all know and love, and this really damages the appearance of the otherwise gorgeous plant. My Caliphaea zebrina, for example, always deteriorates after a few weeks no matter what I do, no matter how much hair I pull out. I regularly try to revamp this plant by repotting it, cutting away the damaged leaves, only for it to develop the same issues a couple of months later. Brown leaves are not just restricted to Caliphaeas, of course. You may be experiencing this common issue on your zebra plant or your begonia. Let me know in the comments which plants of yours have this issue. I recently put out a video moaning about all the house plants I'm slowly killing. I didn't know why, and I got some fantastic feedback from you guys telling me the main problem was that I was watering with tap water. So I owe this video to you.
You're welcome.
You might be reluctant to believe that the good old innocent water that comes out of your tap is slowly killing your house plants, like I was for a long time. But the science out there is overwhelming. Don't get me wrong, pouring tap water over the soil of your houseplants won't melt them like the Wicked Witch of the West in The Wizard of Oz. But we do need to be mindful that there are certain chemicals in tap water that do slow and long-term damage to our beloved plants. So what are those chemicals? Simply, tap water contains things like lead, chlorine and pathogens that when used to water our plants will build up in our plant soil over time, causing issues such as brown tips on the leaves. So the water companies here in the UK treat our water and make sure the water leaving their treatment plants are lead-free. But if it travels through lead pipes, small amounts of lead can end up in the water we use. Lead in large quantities can lead to lead poisoning for people, and thankfully the water we drink does not contain anywhere near enough lead to cause this. But plants are generally more sensitive than people, and a gradual build-up of lead in the soil will cause problems. Chlorine is added to tap water to kill microbes and make it safe to drink, but unfortunately this can be toxic to some houseplants. While the low levels of chlorine in water will be fine for most plants such as philodendrons, aglaonemas and peperomias, some plants will not like the slow build-up of chlorine in the soil, and it will affect their leaves. If you let your tap water sit overnight in the hopes that the chlorine will dissipate, then I wouldn't bother. Water companies now use chloramine, which is a compound containing chlorine to treat the water. Chloramine, unlike chlorine, does not evaporate when you let it sit overnight. In fact, letting the water sit overnight will concentrate the amount of chloramine in the water, albeit by a very small amount. So let's have a look at some of the options we have to water our houseplants and the pros and cons of each. Probably the best thing we can use that trumps everything else is rainwater. While a nuisance for a wedding party on a Saturday afternoon, rainwater is invaluable to plants and something they would vote for every time. I talked about leaving houseplants outside during warm weather on my channel before, and one of the main advantages of this is the access to rainwater. Rainwater is obviously untreated, so it contains only things that Mother Nature provides, as well as beneficial nutrients such as nitrogen that plants need for growth. So plants absolutely love to soak this up, and it really boosts their growth. Collecting rainwater won't be a problem for someone like me who lives in rainy Sheffield, albeit global warming has put in pay to that recently as we're currently under a hosepipe ban. If you live in somewhere like San Diego, then you'll have trouble collecting enough rainwater, unless you have a setup like Kevin at Epic Gardening. Now this is problematic if you have lots of plants in your home. So I must have about 200 plants in my house, and I do find it tricky to collect enough rainwater to water them all, even in my climate. The great advantage of rainwater, of course, is that it's free and sustainable, and we all love that. Distilled water is another option that is beneficial to your plants. Distilled water is water that has been boiled into vapor and condensed back into liquid in a separate container. This is great for your plants, and if you use this option, your plants should show you by showing off their real beauty, providing you're doing everything else correctly. Now the primary problem with distilled water is cost. If you have lots of plants like me, then the cost will build up, since we're usually watering our plants once a week. Filtered water is another option that many of my viewers use, and again, this is an option that your plants will love. Filtering tap water in our homes has become so easy with the introduction of products like Brita filter, and if you already have this in your home, then this will be a great option for you. Water filters are great because they contain a superfine mesh that filters out coarse particles coming from the pipes of our tap water, and ion exchange pearls that reduce lead in the water, blocks limescale buildup and softens the water. They also contain microcarbon pearls made from coconut shells that lock away chlorine and further purify the water. The problem with filter systems though is that there is a not insignificant upfront cost as well as the cost of changing the filters periodically. This can add up over time. Also, the normal capacity for something like Brita filter is approximately 1.4 litres of filtered water, and it takes 15 minutes for it to filter the water. If you've got a lot of plants in your home like me, this will take a long time to water them all. The great hack that I've personally been implementing recently is to use the water collected by my dehumidifier to water my plants. This same methodology can apply if you have an air conditioning unit in your home. I use a dehumidifier in my bedroom upstairs to reduce the amount of humidity in the air when I'm hanging up clothes to dry. This means the unit collects about 2 litres of water every few days that I can then use to water my calatheas. Because this water is collected from the air, it will contain none of the baddies that I've mentioned in this video, and I'm using a byproduct of something that would otherwise go down the drain. Admittedly, this won't be sufficient to water all my plants, but like I've said, this issue affects some plants more than others, so this is what I focus on. I'll be interested to know if this is something you do, so let me know in the comments. Another great hack is for those of you with fish tanks in your home, and that is to recycle the water from your fish tank when you change the water. This is a fantastic resource for your plants that would otherwise be discarded down the drain, and comes with the added bonus of containing free food, otherwise known as fish excrement. If you have a water softening unit in your home that softens the water coming out of your tap, and you're using that water to water your plants, then you really need to stop. Those units use sodium to soften the water, and your plants hate a buildup of sodium in the soil. This will result in browning leaves and a generally unhappy plant. I mentioned earlier that distilled water was the process of boiling water, capturing the vapour and condensing it back into water. But don't get this confused with boiling tap water to purify it. In reality, this process won't work and is very unsustainable. Boiling water will not get rid of lead and chloramine in the water, and it wastes energy and money in the process. I've also seen a few gardening articles saying to let water sit and come to room temperature so as not to damage the roots of the plant. And this is largely a myth. Using cold water to water our plants will do no harm at all. Now, I'm really trying to cut back on the amount of tap water I use, and the two solutions I'm currently using is collecting rainwater from the garden and using the water from my dehumidifier. I'm concentrating on using this water to water my more sensitive plants, such as my calatheas, my green orange and my dieffenbachias, and then topping up my other plants with tap water if I need to. Let me know if you're using any of these methods to water your plants. Adjusting your watering in winter is crucial for happy houseplants, and in this video here, I talk about 5 tips to keep your plants alive and thriving this winter, so don't miss out.